Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully this works. I have not done this in a long time, so please let me know if there's anybody even here. Hello, Charlie. Can't wait for the stream. Hopefully, you can hear me loud and clear. We're going to be doing a bit of a rundown and going through absolutely everything that's happened in the transfer window. Currently, there's a lot going on at the minute. We've got lots to talk about. So, we're going to kind of fly through it all, really, to be honest. And I don't really know where to start. I haven't done a live stream in a while. So, if you are here, please let me know. I'm going to share it now. Hopefully, that will help because I presume I'm now live, but I never know with these things. So, we will see what is going on and hopefully this works loud and clear. But yeah, we're going to start off talking about the Isak current situation. Isak, if I'm honest, it's absolutely mental what's going on with the whole Isak situation. It seems like out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, he's supposed to be traveling to Singapore, and then next thing you know, he is wanting to move, which really shocked me, to be honest. I never really expected to see that because I don't know about you, but I looked at the whole Isak situation and kind of you'd heard a few murmurs and things, but it seemed to really kind of really fast. It really ramped up out of nowhere, and he wanted out instantly, and that kind of took me by surprise. I don't know about you lot. Let me know if you are in here. By the way, say hello in the chat. It kind of really caught me off guard, and I'm intrigued as to where he's going to end up because I know there's a few links all over the place. We've seen. I can share it now on this separate screen. Hopefully this works now. Let me see if this works now. There we go. Yep. So it looks like the rumours. Isak poised to make a British record. Sorry, Isak to Liverpool. Liverpool are poised to make a record bid for Isak, holding out for 150 valuation. Yes, this is claimed by the Daily Mail, so we can only take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. But it's actually interesting. I'm kind of intrigued as to exactly how this is going to work out. Do I see him fitting in? Yes. Isak, I think, is, and I've said this before, Haaland isn't out of his world, but bar Haaland, I think he's the best striker right now in the Premier League. And I think the difference is you've seen everyone go for your likes of ERIKSEN and Sesko and Ekitike and like all these other strikers. But the difference is with Isak compared to all of those, he's got Premier League experience and he's got it in abundance. And I think that's a huge thing in the Premier League. We talk about this quite often. And when serious money flies about, I've done it on a video that's coming out tomorrow. When you look at the majority of transfers, the big transfers that have happened over the years, the biggest thing that always stands out every single time is the fact that not many of them actually kind of work out. A lot of transfers don't work out in the long run. And that's something that always you look at when it's the big transfer fees and you always just think, is it worth it? You look back through, you go through the Lukaku deals, you go through the Hazard deals, you go through the long list of Premier League players, but the ones that normally work out, the ones that have already got experience. So for me, this would be a no-brainer. Do I think Liverpool originally thought they'd be able to get Ekitike, sorry, I can't speak, and Isak at the same time? I doubt it. I can't imagine that they both went for them. I don't think for a second it was ever in the plan to have them both at the club. But the fact that it looks like they're going to have them both potentially is absolutely mental. But I think the one big thing to take from this all is Isak will not be a Newcastle player by the end of this window. There's absolutely no chance of that. And that really like intrigues me. And I find that absolutely crazy. Like I look at that as a whole, it blows my mind. You step back and you think, Isak, arguably one of the best players in the Premier League last season, won't be at Newcastle. And you look at Newcastle and how much of not a desperate kind of transfer window they've had, but they've had quite a troubled transfer window. Every time they try and sign somebody, they seem to go elsewhere. And I think that's kind of a really worrying sign for Newcastle. And then this on top, it's really not a good look. But what Liverpool are building is absolutely crazy. Like I genuinely can't get my head around how good, well, it looks like how good a squad they are building. It kind of really is mental when you think about it as a whole. Next, let's go on to some other transfers that are going on at the minute. There's quite a few as well. It looks like Son as well. There's links with Son going off to LAFC. Now, this one for me makes a lot of sense. I see it. I think this one is kind of one of those transfers that we all kind of expected would happen eventually. Son likely to leave Spurs this summer. Heung-min Son is increasingly likely to leave Tottenham Hotspur this summer and has an offer to join LAFC. In addition, he's got interest in Saudi Arabia. From what I've read, it looks like Son's more likely to be going to LAFC. And for me, that one makes more sense than anything. I look at that as a whole and just think, Yeah, I hear it. I see it. It makes sense. Whereas you look at some of the other ones and you just think, can I see him in Saudi Arabia? No, I think of Son's brand. I think it makes more sense for him to be playing in America because it kind of helps further push that global brand that Son does have. We speak about it quite often. The fans that he's brought into Spurs is absolutely incredible. Next, what else have we got then? There's some other big news. Luke Shaw is one that's come out of nowhere. Luke Shaw is ready to listen to offers. I'll share it on the screen again for you. It looks like Luke Shaw, here we go, if this works. Luke Shaw ready to listen to offers amid interest. Let's go. I can't do this. Luke Shaw ready to listen to offers amid fears over Man United future. Now, it looks like there's been some serious interest from Saudi Arabia. Now, this is one for me that makes sense. I felt like the last contract extension he got, short, it made no sense. And this is a player who shouldn't really be at the top level. Like injury-wise and things, it's crazy to think how much or how little he's played in his Man United career and how long he stayed there. It's a real shame because he's a player that I do really like. And you look at it as a whole, Shaw has 2 more years left remaining on his contract at Old Trafford, which, by the way, I think is absolutely mental that this guy is still contracted for as long as he has done. But it does make sense for him to look and to go to somewhere like Saudi Arabia. That's something that, for me, would make sense. It's a shame because, again, you want to see English players doing it well because he always delivers for England, and that's the main thing that I always come back to with Luke Shaw. So, yeah, it's a real shame, but I think it makes sense for him more than anything. I feel like that deal makes sense. The one that has really shocked me out of nowhere, we've got to talk about this one. This is the one that excites me. Raheem Sterling, potentially linked with Fulham. Fulham wants Sterling from Chelsea. Now, this for me is an incredible deal. We speak about Fulham quite often, and I speak about them quite often on my podcast. I really like Fulham's business, and I really like Fulham as a football club because what they do is they go for players that are reliable. That's why the likes of Willian have done so well. They don't take huge risks, but they get players who are sort of out of favour and things. I think that's the biggest thing because like Reece Nelson, obviously I know he had his injury problems at Fulham last season, but when he did play, he was absolutely incredible for them. That's a player there where I look at and just think it's a shame what happened, but it makes sense that they're going for a player that's kind of that kind of ilk where they quite clearly on their day can be a great player, but it works out because the thing is they go to Fulham and those players aren't the main men. They fit into the system. Marco Silva has kind of got this real knack at getting players to perform above their kind of level. And we've not seen a great level really for Raheem Sterling in quite a while. And he's a player who's criminally underrated, in my opinion. He's only 30 years old. Yes, now I know he looks like when he plays, sometimes he looks like he plays as an older player because I think that's a lot of it is down to the fact that he started when he was so young. He was playing when he was 16, 17 in that Liverpool squad. So I really like this as a deal. I feel like this would make sense. Somewhere like Fulham, because you've seen how many times have players gone to Fulham and they've performed. And that's the thing I look at with this. I just feel like this makes sense. Marco Silva could turn this guy into a really decent player. And let's be honest, it didn't work out at Arsenal, but I feel like there was too much pressure. That's too high a level for him to be going in at. So I think somewhere like a Fulham where the pressure's off and he can just enjoy his football again. I think this deal really, really makes a lot of sense. But I know obviously Marco Silva admitted he understood fans' concern over lack of signings, but at the end of the day, I don't think that's the end of the. I think Fulham they always do their business very sensibly, and that's why I like this deal. I think this deal makes a lot of sense if I'm honest. Now the biggest deal that came in out of absolutely nowhere, we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about Strand Larsen. I'm sorry, you've just said it there. The Strand Larsen deal for me is mental. I can't see it happening at all because I think there's also some regulations, isn't there, about signing and selling players in the same window. So I feel like I read something earlier on Twitter about the laws behind that, and that Wolves could be in trouble if they were to sell him. I can't see him actually being sold. I think Newcastle. I think more than anything, Newcastle are going to go for a statement signing. I know there are links with Sesko, with Larsen linked to Newcastle, but I think Newcastle to Sesko that makes more sense because Newcastle are going to have to make a statement because they've had 3 failed signings now. Trafford going to Man City, that's a big problem for Newcastle. They look silly. That's one deal that's already got looking like it's gone through. They look silly. Then Ekitike going to Liverpool. Also, again, Newcastle, another slap to the face. Newcastle, for their fans and for the wider bit of football, they need to make a statement. That's why I believe Newcastle and Sesko makes sense. And I know obviously there have been links as well to Visser, but I can't see how Visser will leave. Obviously, here it is. Brentford are determined to keep this. I know Newcastle are linked, but I can't see how this would work out in any situation. How on earth would Brentford allow themselves to literally lose their whole squad? We talk about Brentford being very sensible when it comes to business. Yes, I know it's the Moneyball system and where they'll allow players to be sold for a set price, but sometimes you've got to step back and just think, this doesn't make sense. They will not allow in one window their goalkeeper, one of their defenders to go on a free, their centre mid and captain to also leave, then two of their forwards. It just doesn't make sense, does it? They would not allow 5 of their start 11 to go. It would not make any sense. So that's why I think Newcastle, with the Visa deal, I can't see that working. But I think Newcastle and Sesko makes more sense because I think Newcastle will do this because it's not only is it a great signing, but it's also a statement. We know obviously the fact that it looks like we've seen the kind of Ekitike. Geez, every time I struggle with his name today, I'm really sorry. Ekitike going to Liverpool and Newcastle. They've kind of had their trousers down a few times. So I feel like Newcastle have to make a statement. And that's why I look at it and just think it makes sense for Newcastle to go and get Benjamin Sesko. Kind of then just a statement to the rest of the league to say, all right, yeah, you've done us there 3 times, but you won't do us a 4th. This is us making a statement. By the way, if you haven't already, please do smash the like button. Please do subscribe. Thank you to all the people that have come in because this is my first live stream in about 2 years, and I didn't really do any prep for this. I kind of just have come on because I want to bring this back. We have a transfer news roundup, kind of talking to you guys, and not only sorry, I've just talking about Brentford. They've also lost their manager. I completely forgot about that. I can't see how that would make sense for Visa to be going to Newcastle. That's why Benjamin Sesko to Newcastle. There's early links, and I see that happening. Strand Larsen's a great player, but I just don't see the fit. I think it's too much of an ask for Strand Larsen to come in and replace Isak. I don't think the fans would be happy more than anything. But the deal that I briefly mentioned earlier, but I'm going to mention this again. This is the deal that I absolutely love. You ready for this? I'm going to be talking this deal. Fulham want Raheem Sterling. I love this signing. Marco Silva, I promise you guys, will get this guy playing. This is a signing for me that makes sense more than anything. Reece Nelson, obviously, he's got a lot of injury problems. Benjamin Sesko going to Newcastle, great signing. But for me, this would be the biggest signing of the window. I love this because you just know Marco Silva has got a knack. He can just do it. He just gets players who are out of favour playing. We've seen it before and we'll see it again. And I absolutely love that deal. So Raheem Sterling, that's one that excites me. And then the one that I find craziest, like genuinely can't get my head around, Christian Eriksen to Wrexham. Christian Eriksen to Wrexham. Where on earth has this come from? Now, this got mentioned in our group chat earlier, and I agree. It sounds like it's made up. This sounds like one of those deals where everyone's just going, what the hell? Like, what world are we living in? We spoke about Tom Kearney going to Wrexham earlier on in the window, and we all said how crazy that was. But that would be absolutely huge. Also, the news that Gyökeres is expected to wear the number 14 shirt. You kind of knew that was going to happen. I think that makes sense, doesn't it? Really, let's be honest. But we'll go back to the. There we go. Here's the deal. The Newcastle eyeing at Wolves forward. Now, this is where I look at it and think this kind of merit. When you read this as a sentence, Newcastle eyeing at Wolves forward. Do you think the fans would be happy with that as a replacement for Isak? That's no disrespect to Strand Larsen because Strand Larsen is an incredible footballer, but sometimes you've got to keep your fans happy. And this is where I look at it and just think, does it make sense? I think the only way I can see them replacing would be with him. I think that's the only thing that for me that makes sense because it's a statement more than anything. Also, a lot of rumours on this flying about today. Bayern back in contact with Diaz. This would make sense because I was thinking of this at whole. If you look at that Liverpool squad, there is so much firepower and easy money they can make to fund the Isak deal. Because if you looked at it as a whole and you said today, Isak is going to Liverpool, you go, where are they getting the funds for? Well, Diaz going for, there's reports for around 70 to 75 million, which would be incredible if they could get that. And Bayern, funny enough, come knocking back on the door because they know this is a good time. Because obviously, Ekitike can play on the left, Isak can play on the left. So this would make sense as a deal. But not only that, Harvey Elliott also has supposedly got a fee and bids for around 40 to 50 million. So I look at this and think this deal here really makes sense if Liverpool are going to go in for Isak, which looks like the only way I can kind of really see it happening because I know a lot of people are saying that Isak is arguably one of the best strikers right now on the planet. And when players come up like this, you have to strike whilst the iron's hot. And that's the thing I look at with this. You look at the whole Isak thing and you think, oh, it's bad timing. They've just bought Ekitike, but they kind of have to. It doesn't make any sense. You won't get an opportunity like this again. So selling players like Diaz to replace for Isak, it's an improvement regardless. Now, this is the next deal that I want to talk about. This genuinely, what world are we living in? This is absolutely mental business. Now, I was doing my notes before this stream, planning my kind of predictions for the championship next season. But this deal, Wrexham approach for Eriksen, is absolutely mind-blowing. Now, what I love about this is the Championship side have held talks with the player who is a free agent after leaving Manchester United. He said to still prefer a top-flight move, but has been impressed by the pitch and ambition made by Wrexham. Basically, the Wonga, the Moolah. That's what we all know. That's what that is. But regardless, it's still incredible. Like, this would be the signing of the season. Like, don't get me wrong. I was excited to see Tom Kearney back in the Championship. And we're going from Tom Kearney being linked to Wrexham to ERIKSEN. This deal could be massive. This would be incredible. The thought of him playing in the Championship, ripping it up on a Tuesday night against Stoke is absolutely mental. Like, I think this is huge business. This one blew my mind. And if that genuinely happens, if Wrexham actually do get ERIKSEN, I will be blown away. I thought somebody like Brentford would go back in for ERIKSEN. For me, that made more sense, but that kind of really, really blew my mind. And then another deal that's gone through today, it looks like Callum Wilson is going to West Ham. Now, this for me is also a huge deal because there's a knock-on effect. There's the ripple effect, the domino effect that goes on from this. Because Wilson agreeing terms with West Ham then means Dominic Calvert-Lewin won't be going to West Ham. So then I look at it and think, where would Dominic Calvert-Lewin go? He's still got links in Manchester United. He's got links with Newcastle. And then it's a domino effect then of what happens to the rest of the strikers. So this doesn't seem like a big deal, but this will have a huge knock-on effect with the rest of the league. So, yeah, keep an eye on that one. I like that deal. It's a shame Callum Wilson's always injured, but I always think he's a very good striker. Like, I like him as a player. But the biggest one for me as well, we haven't spoken about yet, is the James Trafford deal to Manchester City. Now, this is another one. They've agreed a fee. Everything's looked like it's happening. If you read this here, City are set to pay 27 million for the 22-year-old who they sold to Burnley for 14 million, which means this deal is effectively costing them 13 million. But not only is it doing that, PSR, that will be spread out over the years of his contract as well. Do I like this? I'm not sure. I'm still not convinced by James Trafford and how good a goalkeeper he actually is. But I also think this is huge for Burnley, and their chances of survival decrease even further because I think he was incredible last season. But this is a huge deal because it looks like Edison is staying, but you never know when it comes to Manchester City. Their business gets done like this, left, right, and centre. But there's a lot going on in the Premier League at the minute. But let me know. Ask any questions, by the way, whilst you're here in the chat. Send in any questions. We'll talk about absolutely anything. I'm intrigued to hear what everyone's saying, what everyone thinks of the deals that have been done. I really like the Gyökeres deal. I'm excited to see him playing in the Premier League. I think more than anything, those are the kind of signings you want to see. It feels like the Premier League's back, like the old school kind of transfer windows are back when you see signings like that. The other deal I want to talk about is Oliver Watkins. Oliver Watkins. Why did I just say Oliver Watkins? Ollie Watkins to Manchester United. Now, let me know everyone's thoughts. If you haven't already, please as well smash the like button and please do subscribe. But yeah, Ollie Watkins to Manchester United. Now, there's been a lot of links with this. There's a lot of rumours and a lot of things flying around today for that deal. Do I think it makes sense? I think it's a great deal. It's just his age, which, don't get me wrong, he's not like a has-been or anything, but he's 29 years old, turning 30 soon, and the fee that looks like it's being thrown around will be a lot of money. But I think the biggest thing when it comes to Ollie Watkins is Manchester United need a proven goal scorer. And this guy's a proven goal scorer in the Premier League. So in one sense, I think it does make sense. And again, one part of this deal that I do think is going to be huge and kind of used as a bit of a little bit of a nudge, and a little way of like a nice little bargaining tool and a bargaining bit of power. Garnacho has been linked with Aston Villa, and supposedly they've been priced out. So this could pave a way for a kind of bit of a swap, not a swap deal, but when you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours kind of moment. So it looks like that could easily happen. But yeah, that's really all of the main deals and the main news from today. So hopefully you've enjoyed this live stream. If you haven't already, please do smash the like button and please do subscribe. We'll come back and we'll start doing these a bit more often. So yeah, appreciate the guys that have come in here because I know there hasn't been too many of you, but I never expected the fact that any of you even turned up. I love you all. I appreciate it because this is the first time we've done this in about 2 or 3 years. So I didn't expect it to do too well. I didn't really promo it, but thank you guys for coming in. Let me know your thoughts down below. Please subscribe, please comment, and we are on our way to 11,000 subscribers. So I appreciate you all more than anything. And I'll come back again some point next week to talk about the transfers that have happened. Thank you and goodbye. I'll speak to you soon.